My name is Bronwyn Davies and we're broadcasting this event from a near empty gallery at the centre Beaudesert on Mununjali country here in the Scenic Rim in Queensland, and our co-host is Michelle Blair, coming to you from the Empire Theatre in Toowoomba, southwest Queensland. Thank you for joining us. I'd like to acknowledge that today is National Sorry Day, or the National Day of Healing. In the words of Evelyn Scott, chairperson of the Council for Aboriginal Reconciliation, in true reconciliation, through the remembering, the grieving and the healing, we can come to terms with our conscience and become as one in the dreaming of this land. But right now we'll cross to Auntie Janice Page from the Mununjali traditional owners in Beaudesert.
Hello everybody, thank you for that kind introduction, and thank you for inviting the traditional Mununjali elders to share in this evening with you all. Maingu, Jingari Wali, Mununjali jargon, it's hello and welcome to Mununjali country. I want to acknowledge our elders that have passed for all the hard work that they did, for always encouraging us as children to carry on the stories, to keep your feet firmly planted in country, and to keep fighting, to go forward and to forge a future on our land and our country. I want to also acknowledge our present elders who work tirelessly in the community, volunteering their time, sharing the knowledge, sharing the stories, encouraging the emerging elders that are coming through to continue those stories. We have amazing young people coming through today, and we want to acknowledge them as well because they are our future. And I just want to add to this welcome that, as Bronwyn said, it is a National Day of Sorry business, which is something that started back in the 1938. It was called the Day of Mourning, and so the fight has been a continual struggle. But we have come a long way. We want to thank Scenic Rim, and we want also to thank the arts and this platform for being inclusive, and it's an opportunity for us to also to share, because it's a common platform and common ground for all in the creative arts. I thank you very much, and I wish you all a very good evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice, for that touching welcome. Earlier this week, we were out on country on Wyalong Dam with Kim Williams and Mununjali Nari. This is some of Kim's artwork. The pigabeen baskets are made from the pigabeen palms, and a women's business from the Kulili tribe passed down to Kim through her nan, and they are inspired her print work, which she calls hidden stories, as she saw in the baskets symbols that you will see a lot of in a lot of Aboriginal artworks. Her paintings also include the inspiration for a community project she recently did to commemorate local veterans, where Kim painted power poles around Beaudesert so that during the COVID restrictions, people could go out to their driveways and stand near the light poles for the dawn service. But now we're going to cross to Kim and Mununjali Nari at Wyalong Dam. Oh, it's so beautiful out at Wyalong Dam. Sometimes we take our kayaks out and paddle from the boat ramp to the Overflow Estate Vineyards for lunch. And as this is an arts dinner, and I've dressed for dinner, we thought we would ask the chef from the Overflow, Richard Ousby, to prepare something for you tonight using local produce. If you have any questions that you would like to ask Richard tonight during this segment, you can ask them in the chat box, and they'll come to me and I'll ask them to Richard in the kitchen. And if you're cooking along at home, we'd love to see what you're preparing for your arts dinner tonight too. So Richard, what are you cooking for us tonight?
Okay, so tonight, roast pork, some lovely macadamias, which we're going to make a puree, not dissimilar to a hummus, and then some honeyed carrots, which are my kids' favourites. So I'll start cooking away with that, with some local garlic, which I've got a personal stash of. It's all finished, but I've got my own little stash of it now, which you have to with some of this beautiful produce from around here. It's not on season all the time.
I was going to say, Richard, where do you get your produce from?
Look, I guess having not lived in the region ever, but for very long being out here, I'm slowly getting there, I think. I'm just sourcing it from whoever I can. The pork is from Kay, so Kay, and that's the reason I've decided to do the pork tonight. I was talking to Kay from Tonga, and she said, I can't remember when the last time I made a pork roast. So I thought, well, that's it. You're a pork producer. You need to make more roasts. So I thought I'd make one tonight. It's in the oven now, and I think, look, I made a pork roast in preparation yesterday for this, and it didn't go as well as I hoped. So I thought I'd better get on top of today's, and I've put a few gone extra mile with this one.
So what kind of tips do you would you recommend viewers who are trying to do this at home do when they're cooking this?
Okay, so my tips for a pork roast are make sure you unwrap it the day before, or 2 days before. It's not a bad idea. Then on the day, I get a little bit of vinegar and a little bit of salt and rub that all over the pork, put it back in the fridge.
What does that do?
Helps to draw the excess moisture out of the skin.
Oh, okay.
So to get them crackling, and basically a pork roast is nothing without the crackling. I mean, that's everyone's kids, and that's where it all lives.
The crunchy bits.
The crunchy bits, exactly right. Now this one's ready. I'll pull it out now. And the crackling's pretty good. I mean, I wouldn't say it's like 10 out of 10, but I'd call it 1 out of 10. I'm happy enough with that in a foreign kitchen. And we're going to make a gravy with all those juices, as everyone loves to. So we'll put a pan on. This is to make the sauce from the gravy, so we're going to put I've diced some onions. I guess another tip for something like pork roast or for any cooking is sharp knives. Over the last 20 years of cooking, I've kind of now got a cache of beautiful knives, but blunt knives frustrate me. So you've got to have sharp knives, and they do a lot of damage to your hands occasionally, but far less than blunt knives.
Okay, so how long have you been out at the Overflow?
Oh, not very long. I opened the 1 week before COVID shut everything down. Well,
oh, no.
I started out there 1 week before that, so then I had a little break. And now we're back on. So
how often are you open? Are you open 7 days a week, or just for lunches on the weekend? Or
it's open 5 days a week. I'm not there 5 days a week, although I have prepared some things that are there 5 days a week. And then I'm there on the weekends to do a little a 3-course menu, which has been going really well. It's been received really well. What I'm doing here with this butter, it's just going to make it a little bit nut brown. So once it's bubbling away, it'll just get a little bit more brownness, you could say. And it's called Burn Rosette. And it'll just help to give that sauce those nutty, rich, buttery notes. Sort of caramelised, roasty. There we go. It starts it's foaming, and then the foam just disappears, and that's when you know it's started to caramelise the milk solids in the butter. Now we'll just go in the pan. We'll cook that for a little bit, and then we'll chuck in some of the wine from the Overflow. I'm sure David has one he'd prefer to go in there, but the Vermentino is my pick of the bunch.
Very nice. I like that. That's very good.
Easy drinking.
Unfortunately, it is.
Fortunately or unfortunately. So, and then in the carrots. So I cut the carrots a particular way. This is how I learnt to make these particular carrots when I worked in England, working for the late Michel Roux. And he was, you know, such a beautiful cook and cooked such amazing food that I kind of couldn't but cut them the same way. You know, you can cut them out if you want, really.
Was he one of your mentors?
Yeah, in a way he was. I mean, I didn't, my fondest memory, well, one of my fond memories of being a chef is the first moment that he came in and remembered my name. I know that sounds like an arbitrary thing, but as a young chef working for what was one of the most famous chefs in the world, to first come in and say, "Oh, Richard, thanks for lunch," because I'd cook him lunch most days. He'd always want like boiled vegetables, basically. He had a simple palate. And he came in and he said, "Oh, Richard, thanks very much for yesterday's vegetables. Can you cook this again for me today?" And I was like, "Oh, wow." And yeah, I went on to work for him for a year and a half, and he's a beautiful person to work for.
So that's that, coming back to that mentoring thing, that's somebody showing you respect while you're trying to get their respect. That's beautiful. Did you always want to be a chef?
Well, yeah, thankfully. I mean, I feel blessed that I never had to make the decision what to do. I kind of always told myself I was going to be a chef at school. Some kids were going to be a fireman, but I always said, "Oh, I'm going to be a chef." So it was written in the sand or something like that.
And so how did you get into it? Like, you know, when you were starting off, you leave school, what did you do? Did you have a mentor?
At school I started with, I had a school-based traineeship.
Yeah.
I guess my first mentor, thinking back, was the hospitality teacher at school. She saw that I really loved doing it. She saw I might have some sort of knack for it. And then she just helped me get an apprenticeship or a traineeship in the beginning. And then I went on to be an apprenticeship at a local Italian restaurant. Now I've got some Mandarin, not entirely from around here, but I had a lime sitting on the front dash and it rolled out the window on the way here. So this was my snack, and now it's in the dinner. So a little bit of Mandarin juice. I just want some sort of citrusy element to it. I put a little bit of rosemary out of my garden.
That's fresh rosemary.
Fresh rosemary.
And while you're doing that, I just we've got an audience question, which is, do you know when the Overflow will resume acoustic music sessions on Sundays?
It's actually, we've started back with music sessions on Saturdays and Sundays at the moment.
Okay, how long, when do they start? What time of day do they start?
I feel like they start at 12, and then they go at 10-ish, and then they go through till 4, so...
Okay,
yeah, I don't know, I'm always in the kitchen and I just hear this lovely music playing and I think, oh, well, that's good. There's some people there now. Just put a bit more rosemary in. And then we're going to put some macadamia nuts. So about a good handful.
Are they raw macadamias?
Yeah, so they're from Greenleaf Farm, which isn't that too far from here in the context of the scenic rim. It's not a small place. And then some buttermilk. So... this is the leftovers after making the butter. And this helps give a nice acidity to it as well. I think it'll need a little bit more, but that's what I've put in so far. And we'll just blend that up. And this is, like I said, this can be a great dip. Sorry about the noise. What you're trying to achieve is something a bit finer than that, but that's a good start. So you'll get a lovely hummus. So this is a good dip. I don't know if I've said that 4 times, but this is a lovely dip. If you add a little bit of chili or kind of anything really, it's a lovely dip.
So is the idea to get that smooth, or is it still got to be a bit chunky?
Okay. Aside from blending for the next 10 minutes, that's all we can achieve right now. But trust me, it gets very fine.
Oh, okay.
And also macadamia nuts make a lovely, lovely milk if you want to go that far. So the carrots will boil away, and the idea being, I don't know if we... So we put the carrots there was a touch of water, which I added because the stock was a bit too reduced. It was getting a little bit heavy. With the honey, a touch of butter, and we just cook that down in that, so that ends up cooking down and glazing the carrots. So they get soft, the carrot juices then cook into it and they help glaze it, and yeah. Actually, one thing I didn't add is a touch of salt. Always add salt. It's one of those things that really heightens food. One thing I didn't show you, but I will show you now, and I guess it's more to, if you get a piece of pork that isn't tied. Now, it's not it isn't essential, but does add a lovely, it helps you get a really nice consistent shape. And this is obviously cooked here, but I'm no butcher, so I just do it the good old-fashioned way, and I put one piece under, around, and then you do 1, 2, 3 twists, pull it nice and tight, so you can get a really nice tight, and then you just do a second knot, and that kind of seals that knot, and then it means that it kind of keeps everything nice and tight. Trim those off so there's not excess, but you can see that's what we've done with all of these. So we can take these off, and you can hear that. So I didn't do too bad a job, I reckon.
So is this the sort of thing that you you have to get better and better at while you're doing your training? You have to, as an apprentice. And do you get scolded in kitchens? Is it a hard apprenticeship to be a chef?
Look, I wouldn't say it's easy, but also I don't know anything else. So, I mean, I'm sure there's actually lots of hard things about all industries. I think for me, because I loved it, it never came across as, and perhaps because I worked for fantastic people. Another person I really adore and worked for him for a while, over 3.5 years, was Peter Gilmore. And he was probably the first mentor or chef I worked for that really had a very calm demeanour. So if he was to get upset or things weren't going exactly how he wanted, he would, get upset a little bit and be a little bit loud, but you knew then that something was wrong. Whereas his normal way about the kitchen was really friendly, really lovely, hey buddy, pat you on the back. So it was really easy to work for someone like that. And I guess helped me choose my path in a way, because naturally the path of least resistance became where I went.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because chefs aren't necessarily renowned for their calmness in the kitchen, are they? So,
No.
as an aspiring chef, what advice would you give them when they come up against difficulties, or if they're trying to navigate their way through a career in as a chef?
Look, I guess, because it's such a personal journey, I guess whatever feels right for you. I mean, I worked in 1 or 2 kitchens, so I found a little bit much as far as the intensity of people versus the value to my career. So I guess there was 1 or 2 kitchens that I thought, okay, this is great food, this is at the top of the tree, but what I'm getting out of this kind of cost me more than what I want. So that wasn't for me, and then I next went to Key, and kind of the balance was perfect there versus it was the best restaurant in Australia and people were really lovely, and I don't think one should sacrifice the other, and it should be an easy path to choose. I don't know, something like that anyway. I don't know if that was clear.
Having faith in yourself, I guess, to be able to trust your own judgment.
Okay, let's have a look at this. The moment of truth. Not too bad. Depends who you talk to, how pink they want their meat, but I think most people don't want their pork too pink, even though it's all right to have it pink. So we'll cut a few nice chunks of that. There you go, that looks pretty good. I don't know what that looks like on camera, but I'm pretty happy with that. Nice and juicy. And we're going to add a little bit of butter, so we'll take this these carrots. So what these are carrots that lie underneath the pork, and you could call this, I guess, a trivet or something that's going to sit on so that the pork doesn't brown or burn on the base. And these are perfectly good to eat, but I wasn't intending to use them. So we'll put this on the stove and we'll warm those juices up, and then we'll add in some of the other juices that we did before. These carrots needed a touch more, so I'm going to add a touch of water. They're not quite soft enough. Although they're starting to glaze nicely and they've reduced all the stock out, I'm going to add a little bit of water to that, and then they'll continue to cook just a touch longer. So don't be stressed out. A bit of water's not going to hurt you.
So they'd be scenic rim carrots, wouldn't they?
They definitely are. And I think, what am I using this weekend? Carrots are one of the focuses. Pumpkins, carrots, and something else. I kind of write the menu every Sunday night after the service, and then forget about it for a few days until I need to start ordering all the things and getting them all out to the overflow for the next week's menu. We'll turn this up. Now, so we're going to, like a traditional gravy, I won't thicken this with flour or anything. I'm just going to add a little bit of the stock that was reduced, get this going a little bit, and just that'll do that.
So you're not putting any flour in there to make that into a to the gravy?
I mean, I love, I don't know how many people make jus at their house. I mean, I have a cache of frozen stocks, but I don't mind a gravy, but I don't necessarily cook them that much. Mm-hmm. There's some brown bits in there. And then that'll just come to the boil. I'm going to add a little bit of this vermentino, only partly because it's my favourite out of the bunch. And don't worry too much about cooking the wine off. It's actually quite nice to have some of the wine flavour. Just if it comes to the boil, that sort of alcohol tang, you could say, will burn off pretty fast. Let's see there. It's all some burny bits from the... And obviously you can't taste it, but I'll have to do that bit for you. It's pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. I probably wouldn't say if I wasn't anyway. The carrot's still boiling there, almost ready. And I guess on mentors, I mean, I feel lucky, I guess, having cooked with my nan and my mum for most of my childhood. And maybe that's where, as a chef, I started to be mentored by them. So, they're pretty lovely people.
It starts at home, doesn't it?
It does.
The love of food and the occasions. And I have to say, that's one of the beautiful things out at the Overflow. It's a really beautiful place to have an occasion because the setting is spectacular. And the food, the wine, it's just so lovely.
Yeah, that's why I fell in love with it. I went out to the launch of Eat Local Week the year before last. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry, last year. Was it last year? And I'd never been there before. I mean, it hadn't been finished that long, the new building and everything. But immediately I thought, I could come out here more often. Little did I know I'd then end up talking to David about working out there, but...
There you go. That's fantastic.
All right, these are getting pretty soft. And it depends how soft you want your carrots. I mean, I like them with a touch of texture. Other people, like Michelle Roux, didn't want it to use his teeth too much. So this has, we'll better taste it. Needs a little bit of salt. But it has that lovely rosemary. The buttermilk gave it a little bit of acid. Got a floral note from the mandarin. And it would, like as you can see, with some crackers or something, if we blended this a little bit further, pardon all the noise, it comes off pretty good. And then we'll put a couple of bits of...
It smells so, it's seeping under the door to the kitchen from the gallery. It smells amazing.
And so these carrots, we used to have to do these for the whole suckling pigs they would cook for the private dining room. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
A little bit of that honey's not a bad thing. And we'll put a little bit of sauce.
So, Richard, do you mentor other chefs now? What do you do about paying it forward, if you like?
Well, I guess I'm part of a program, or a bunch of programs, one being a program called Appetite for Excellence, which is one that's designed for young chefs. And I was part of it as a young chef, sort of being mentored or competing you know, with other chefs and having fun cooking with them. And now, not this year, but every year there's a judging process that happens where young chefs from around the country kind of put up their wares, you could say, design some dishes, design some menus. You then give them feedback and build them up to, you know, being able to compete with this menu. And then they all come together, have a big sort of master chefy cook-off for a few days. And yeah, I'm one of the judges, thankfully, still involved with the program over all these years. So it's been really special. And what's so great, and I guess I didn't see it in the beginning being involved, is just the networking on all levels. So it's not just about, you know, young people in the industry connecting with each other, you know, like the people that have been there for a while. It's like all levels of the industry getting together, you know, cooking food and talking about what they love.
Fantastic opportunity for an aspiring chef to really get to understand and make those connections, which must be so important in that industry.
And then, I guess we could give this a little bit of zhuzh.
Yeah.
So a little bit of macadamia nut. This is called a microplane, but it's basically just a grater. And this is just kind of helped give that sort of, go the extra mile. And these coming in a packet were far easier than sitting in my backyard, as I often do with my mum, and just crack macadamia nuts with a brick. So yeah, Greenlee do obviously got a big cracking machine. I hope they do anyway. So it's roast pork.
Yeah.
Carrots.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure.
That's great. So thank you, Richard from the Overflow. If you'd like to check out the Overflow Estate 1895, which is on the banks of the Warralong Dam or the Warralong Lake, it's about 15 minutes drive out of Beaudesert. You can launch kayaks. It doesn't have motorboats. It's a pristine wetland surrounded by mountains and this fantastic heritage site with a brilliant cafe and restaurant full of scenic rim food. And if you want to support the local growers and farmers, that's a fantastic place to go on a Saturday or Sunday. But I believe with the COVID restrictions, there's limited numbers that are available to make sure you make a reservation before you head on out there. Okay, so thanks, Richard. That's really great and ideal for this autumn weather. We might go now to Michelle at the Empire Theatre. Good evening, Michelle.
Good evening, Bron. That dinner looked amazing. I did have a piece of pork on the weekend too, so I can remember what it would taste like. So if you've just tuned into to tonight's dinner, welcome. We're streaming to you tonight from Zoom, and we're also on YouTube Live. I'm Michelle Blair, and I'm your Southwest Queensland Regional Arts Services Network Officer, and I'm on stage at the Armitage Centre, which is a part of the Empire Theatre in Toowoomba. I'd also like to acknowledge the Aboriginal parties whose songlines traverse these lands we meet on today, the Western Waka Waka, Guyabal and Jarrawa peoples, and pay their respect to their elders past, present and emerging. I too would like to acknowledge National Sorry Day. Southwest Regional Arts Services is committed to working with council and community to develop a strong creative community across the Southwest. Today, the Minister for the Arts, Leanne Enoch, has announced a new grant called START, which will be aimed at providing support for Queensland's independent creative practitioners, including artists, producers, designers, technicians and other art workers. Funding will be distributed by the Regional Arts Services Network, which will be us for the Southwest, but these grants aren't open yet, so please keep in touch and we will update you as soon as we have more information. So back to the online event. If you have any questions throughout the night, please post them on the chat, and the team at Arts Front, who are behind the scenes, will get those questions to us. Arts Front and their team are working on this project with us from locations around southern Queensland, with everyone in self-isolation and observing physical distancing guidelines. If you want to catch this again later or share with your friends or community, go to YouTube Live, which you can find at the live live at the centre website or go to the Arts Front website. Bron and I would like to thank Arts Front and encourage you to check out their website and register for a host of online events and conversations in the arts that they are making happen in Australia right now. So we are joined by a fantastic panel this evening, and I just wanted to quickly run through them and introduce them to you. Kim Walmsley is a Mulunjali artist and arts worker living in Toowoomba. Kim enjoys a challenge and embraces her purpose to enhance and promote self-worth and determination with art as her tool and her Indigenous spirituality as her guide. Welcome, Kim. We have McKenna, who has been involved in creative and cultural sector development for almost 30 years, working with Arts Queensland, Q Music, Sunshine Coast Regional Council, RADIF and Indigenous programs, the Horizon Festival, Big Sounds and A Venue, and now Grant is at BEMAC. Welcome, Ant. We also have Melania Jack, who is a songwriter and musician teacher and workshop facilitator, and one half of the Ironing Maidens. Welcome, Melania. We also have Preece, who is the other half of the Ironing Maidens, who's an associate lecturer of music technology at CGUni, passionate about music, creation and experimentation. Sorry, it's a bit chilly here. My brain's not working very well. And she's also the other half of the Ironing Maidens, who we'll hear from later tonight. So welcome, Patty. We have Andrew Wright, who's the artistic director of Goat Track Theatre for children and young people. He also produced the very successful mentoring program, Youth at the Hearth, at last year's Arts Ablaze Queensland Regional Arts Conference. And finally, we have Wendy Green, who focuses on arts, events and cultural heritage driving economic benefits in her role at the Queensland Museum and organiser of the Lost Trades Fair. She has mentored countless artisans and makers in this role, so I'm looking to finding out what that has involved. Welcome, Wendy. So first up, we have Melania coming to us in Cairns.
Hi, it's so great to be here. We just
Welcome.
had a really lovely dinner with you all. It's nice to have dinner with someone.
Yeah, it is. So Melania, thanks for joining us. Thank you to you both, seeing you both on screen. Melania, your career has involved acting, teaching, songwriting and performing, and is going gangbusters with the Ironing Maidens. You have had the experience of being mentored. How did that come about? And was it a formal mentoring program or something more informal? And what were the greatest benefits of being mentored?
Yes, Michelle, actually our project kind of started with a mentoring project, actually. Like the Ironing Maidens was relatively new, and we had all of these ideas and we were trying to get it started. And at that point, when we were just in inception, we were lucky enough to be able to have a formal mentorship with Candy Bowers, who's an amazing producer and artist, who's produced things like Hot Brown Honey and Circus Oz. She was in Circus Oz, and is just a really wonderful artist and activist. And that came about through, we were at the time living in New South Wales, and Arts New South Wales ran a program called Connect, alongside Southern Cross University. So it was both a mentorship and research program into the concept around mentorships. So it was a really great time to receive that mentorship, and it was really instrumental in actually getting the Ironing Maidens up and off the ground.
Can I ask?
No, you go, Bron.
I was just going to ask, what did that mentorship actually look like? I mean, you said it was a formal mentorship. What was it? You had to apply for it, and then once you got it, what does it mean? What does it look like?
Yeah, so it was an application process, and then when we received the mentorship, during that process we had to, suggest who we wanted to work with. Originally I'd written down Grace Jones, but apparently she wasn't available. But Candy was amazing. Hi, Busty. It was amazing to work with on that project, and it really kind of got us going. The other part of the question was, what did it look like? Yeah, over one weekend.
So, so in that process, did you have multiple contact with your mentor, or was it a very short process?
Yeah, that's right. Patty's just reminded me, because it was about 7 years ago, and the details are a little hazy, but apparently we had ongoing phone conversations and ongoing support, and then Candy also came to our presentation of the work down in Lismore and presented our work and our MC'd the the introduction of our show. So and then we've since then always kept in contact, and that relationship keeps on going.
And I mean, I think that's part of the knowing that you've got a really great mentor, is that you've got that continuing connect, and many years later you're still finding value from that relationship. So after being mentored, have you had the opportunity to, and do you work with other artists in a mentor role?
Yeah, absolutely, we do. We've kind of, I guess because of how valuable these mentorships have been to us, the people that we've been able to work with, then we recognise, that sort of pay it on model. But we've kind of made it a bit of a keystone in all of our projects. So every single project we do, whether it's a tour or a creative development or any kind of work, we always have a mentee on board. So for instance, on our Queensland tour recently, we had 2 young students, music students, who came on board the tour and basically learned all elements of touring and setting up PAs in random laundromats in regional Queensland, and talking to audience and running the socials, and all of those elements they got to experience on tour with us. And it was great because one of those students came back and then was able to get a position working for a venue here. So you really do see that confidence building and how important it is.
Yep. No, it's a vital thing that we give back to, I think, especially within this industry. Thank you very much for your time. We'll cross back to you guys later. So I'm straight into Patty. So no, we're not crossing back later, straight up. If I read my script, I'd be right. So Patty, you've been a lecturer in music technology at CGUni, and would have students potentially all over Australia. Teaching by its very nature is a mentoring role. What are the key ingredients you find are important to be a good mentor?
Well, I guess that, number one, I would say, is turning up. Being available, being there, listening, to the stories, to the experiences, being open, just to hear what's going on for your students or, mentees. Number two, I would say, on a similar tangent, is being open and invested in the growth of your mentee. Because it's one thing to have a formal arrangement and, yes, you're going to do this and this and this, but I think for us in the arts, we need to be invested in the next generation and, all the work that we're creating, because, these mentees that we work with, and they become our tech, they become our backup dancers, we become their tech, their backup dancers. It's a community that we're growing here. So, we need to be open and invested in that. And I would say number three is having a growth mindset. We kind of hear about this being thrown about, but I think, being able to be open to making mistakes and then being able to reflect on those. And, I guess in that space, that's where we really learn, how to grow, I guess. Yeah, hence the name, the growth mindset.
So do you find too, there's a difference between how you would approach a more formal mentoring process and how you would actually go through a more casual mentoring process? So obviously with your students, you've got a very different way of approaching it than you would anybody else that you would mentor.
Yeah, I guess, lecturing has a very formal, we have terms and relationship ends at the end of the term, doesn't it? Because they hand all their assignments in, and that's all we have to, have contact with them.
Then they come on tour with us.
So I guess, look, in my experience, the formal has always turned into an informal, and in that sense, those relationships have grown into friendships, and those friendships have developed and opportunities have grown from that, whether it's, we're taking students on tour with us, or we run into them at festivals and they're off doing wonderful things, running stages. But I do think that the idea of an informal mentorship has such capacity to build our arts community. And I guess like our experience of being mentees, and that relationship growing into a more informal mentoring arrangement, we've certainly grown from that. So I definitely see heaps more value in that kind of informal arrangement.
Yeah, that creation of network is probably a just as important part of that mentor process, isn't it? Because, I mean, you know people you can rely on as well when you're working through a program yourself, a project as well. So in regards to mentoring students or the informal mentoring, what do you need to have at the front of your mind when you decide to go into that sort of relationship with somebody, so that you're getting the best out of the situation, out of the mentorship?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I think in all of these situations, especially being in a lecturing position, there can be this inherent power dynamic, which can be destructive. So I think that's always at the front of my mind is keeping in check that kind of dynamic and making sure that I'm creating an even playing field, so that everyone feels comfortable, and and able to explore the full range of themselves. So that I guess that would be the biggest thing for me, is just keeping that dynamic in check.
Very good. Thank you very much. We'll speak with you. We will speak with you later and hear you perform later. I got it right this time. Thanks very much for your time, guys. And we'll cross over to Wendy, who's in Toowoomba with me.
G'day.
Hello, Wendy. How are you?
I'm cold, but I'm very happy.
No, that's fantastic. So thanks for coming along. Now, you work at the Queensland Museum, so can you give me a bit of a quick rundown on what your role is and what mentoring you have done, and who you've been able to mentor over the years?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I started at the Queensland Museum, it was about a decade ago, and a big part of my role then was to be a key person in a state tourism funded initiative called Handmade in Country. And we were tasked with looking for tourism and arts related opportunities for the Darling Downs, Southern Downs and Granite Belt regions. And a big part of that role involved seeking out artisans. So artisans are essentially creators of artistic items that are functional. And we focused particularly on artisans because we needed a point of difference from other regions, and it allowed us to encompass heritage trades into the mix, which is still really an important focus for Queensland Museum. And what we observed was that many of these incredibly talented artisans really had no idea how to value themselves, and they all needed assistance in some way. And I just came across artisan after artisan who supplied incredible handmade one-off pieces at significantly below cost. Many of them were even embarrassed to ask for a price that would mean they could actually sustain their own art. And it wasn't an acute problem. It was the majority of the artisans who we came across, new and established artisans. So it became clear that they needed mentorship and guidance around some of the non-creative parts of their vocation. And these needs included business, pricing, marketing, distribution and supply. And hence I kind of fell into a mentoring role due to my commercial background. We ended up with around 1,000 artisans in the 3 regions for the project and hosted regular info sessions on subjects like moving from hobbyist to career artisan, charging GST in your pricing, doing a killer display, getting ready to go to market. We also established an annual event hosted at Cobb & Co Museum in Toowoomba called Handmade Under the Stars, a twilight market. And this event was designed to showcase handmade and country artisans from the 3 regions in one place. And it's now been running for 9 years. And for the past 3 years, we've had over 4,000 people attend during the 4 hours. So we certainly achieved our goal there of publicising artisans. But during the time working on Handmade and Country, I was also learning a huge amount and honing my own event management skills and learning about the trades. So I certainly never considered myself as a mentor, but more of a coach of sorts. However, since I began to understand that mentoring is a two-way street, and it's kind of just more similar to a friendship in my mind, but a more formal version of a friendship. But since then, after the Handmade and Country project wrapped up because we ran out of funding, my work with artisans through our museum gift shop continued to be established, and I had the opportunity to continue to help artisans and artists with their product lines, price points, packaging, self-promotion, which I discovered that many creatives are very, very bad at. They don't self-promote. It's a funny anomaly. But for some artisans, it ended up being a quick flash in the pan where they had huge success and they've sold all of their stock, and then they work day and night to produce more product, and then they decide, oops, this isn't fun now. So they went on and tried something else, but others had more of a slow burn, and they expanded their product ranges and collaborated with other artists and added new skills to their mix, and it's opened up wonderful new markets for them. But then my next big adventure was in 2017, when I was once again lucky to be part of a team that negotiated with the Victorian-based founders of the Lost Trades Fair, a well-established event in that region, and see if we could bring it to Toowoomba. And for many of the Queensland artisans that attended this event and subsequent events that ran in other states, it has literally put them on the world stage for their trade. The event has done glorious things for heritage and rare trades internationally. And personally, me being able to witness the mentoring between artisans in the last 4 years has been so rewarding. They're all developing their skills. They're amongst kindred spirits, where previously they might have been on their own in their garden shed doing this thing that very few people understood. And this experience has been one of the most satisfying and real work that I've been able to put my hands to in my entire career. Again, many of the exhibiting craftspeople come to me for bits of advice here and there, perhaps a connection they need to make, or simply just to be a sounding board for an idea. And remember, I've never been a lead light artisan. I'm not a Cooper or a wheelwright. So again, I hadn't considered myself in the traditional sense of being a mentor, but what I was doing was sharing my knowledge and how these different systems worked, and I was sharing my understanding of the commercialization of art, artist events, retail, in a way that translates directly into their own situation. So I wasn't telling them what to do in so much as giving them the instruction manual on how the commercial process worked, and therefore enabling them to achieve greater success. And I guess in a way that's exactly what mentoring is. But some of the best mentors I've personally have not taught me the technical parts of my role. They've simply just taken an interest in my personal and professional development. And a good mentor normally won't tell you what to do exactly, but they'll give you suggestions on how they personally think through a problem. And being walked through that process of how to think about something, it's such a valuable gift. And I think it's one that keeps giving for future problems. So that's my aim.
That's fantastic, Wendy. And when we approached you said exactly that. You didn't see yourself as a mentor, whereas mentoring comes in many shapes and sizes. And we all need a mentor for different stages of our lives and stages within our employment. So you've definitely done great things in your role. And we also, as we previously talked about, it's created that community as well, hasn't it? It's created that interlinking between not only yourself and the artisans, but within themselves as well. And it's created that we're all in it together, and we're all feeling the same when it comes to what our future looks like and what we can and can't achieve. So thank you so much for your time, Wendy.
Thank
you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Let's keep the heaters on and we'll be right.
Yeah.
And let's hope we see that Lost Trades Fair coming soon. So
yes, 2021.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. So right now I'm going to cross back over to Bron down in Bow Desert.
Thanks, Michelle. So I'm getting a really good idea of what is important to be as for the mentoring relationship. So let's go to our next guest, which is Kim Walmsley. Kim, tell me, how does the mentoring relationship work within Indigenous communities?
Hi everyone. Before I start, I'd like to acknowledge all First Nations people of Australia and just take a moment just to remember what's happened and just hope for the future. Reconciliation starts tomorrow. Yeah. So with that question, for me, I've learned a lot of lessons over the years. One is to be open to learning about the people and the land, the tribe and history of place. Know and connect with the local elders and professionals, Indigenous professionals working in the community, whether it be health or with any kind of service provider. It's getting to know your surrounds and introduce yourself, let them know your hopes and ideas. Appreciate and respect the input from our mob and be inclusive. You know, they need to be a part of the conversation from the very word go. Involve everyone. If you know there is conflict in the community, make sure that you invite everybody to the table, never kind of two sides. I think that's important, and it's really hard for people on the outside to see that looking in. But, you know, always be aware that there could be what we call black politics happening, and we need to make sure that we respect everybody's, dreams and wishes and hopes for their community, because, especially with working with Scenic Rim, which is coming up, Bronwyn, as you know, it's important to get a move on for a start. COVID's stopped this project, unfortunately. But once we get back on track, for me, it's more about not me being the artist anymore. I want to be that facilitator and empower the community, because I don't live on Mununjali country. I live in Toowoomba. So it's important for me to empower the locals to take control of their own destiny, because I can't just do a project and then move on and forget about them. I need to empower them so they can keep it going. And also, I think listen to hear, be authentic in your goals and your purpose and outcome. And I think that's to do with everybody. There's no colour there. Patience with cultural protocols, which can and are different from tribe to tribe. So just because we're all Aboriginal doesn't mean we're the same. So we need to really connect with those elders and the local leaders of the community to make sure that we're doing what they would like us to do, not what we see as being the best thing for them. Yeah.
That's I think there's a lot of lessons that we could learn from the Indigenous communities about the way they work, or the way you work. What do you think we could learn best from you? What is our mob doing wrong? And I'm sure there's a lot.
Oh, I think you've got good intentions. I think it's just listen, spending time, really investing in a relationship with community. There's a saying, an elder has said to me that, we can smell gammon a mile away. So, we know, and sometimes, your intentions and other people's intentions are great, but we're just nervous, I suppose, on who we let in. I mean, I'm Mununjali, and I've still got to earn that respect with my own community, and because I don't live there. So I've lived in Toowoomba for 20 years, and I've worked with Toowoomba elders and community for that long. But yet, even though I'm Mununjali, I still have to gain that respect through proving that I can do a project. So that's coming up. Watch this space.
So we'll talk a little bit about that project in a minute. But if you're an aspiring arts worker, for instance, and wanting to work with Indigenous community, doesn't matter where it is in Australia, what, other than listening, what else do you think that they might need to do to gain the respect of the community and, of course, Indigenous communities and the broader community? What advice do you think you would give them?
Advice? I think, like I said, it's having those workshops and those talks, and we don't like those words anymore. Cross-cultural awareness. It's about being interested because you want to be interested. Don't just be interested because it's you've got to tick that box. And it all comes down to knowing the authenticity coming from the individual and earning that and building that relationship and that rapport. And that takes time and dedication, I think, and commitment to the people themselves, getting to know who they are and letting them know you as well. I think it is relationships, and you can't create massive projects over one cup of tea. It takes a long time.
Yeah, so it's
that time, investing time to build the trust and the rapport up with everybody.
And of course, in governments, we're not always good at doing that because we've got, and I guess in the commercial world as well, we've got time constraints and we don't sit down and take time to get to know people because we've got to tick those boxes, don't we? So
most artists struggle because of the time frames, and that puts this pressure on the authenticity when you've got a couple of minutes. I was listening to the girls, the Iron Maidens, before when they said that they build that relationship over a term with their students, whereas for me, when I've done workshops with students, I might have 15 minutes with them. So mentoring a little kid for 15 minutes while they do a project, and then I get another class of 30 or 40, makes it really difficult to build, to be a mentor. So you're just hoping that you say the right thing and you've switched one little light on somewhere. And I often see it, I get little gifts and little things. So, I can't say I'm a mentor, but yeah, I like to inspire and motivate little people by just getting their creative on. Yeah.
That's pretty good. And of course, people here in Beaudesert will have that opportunity to watch you get your creative on and participate in that in the upcoming Corroborate project too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Corroborate hasn't started yet. It's going to. The project is more about the community actually doing the artwork. I've designed the idea, the concept is a large scale, but it's about the community actually owning the artwork. So I'm not doing any of the design work. It's me doing hopefully workshops with community so that each person can talk about themselves and we can learn to symbolise that through colours, shapes, symbolism, and they'll all be painting on a U shape, which is going to be steel. And there's 80 pieces. So I've got to find 80 community members through these organisations and schools and youth supports and all sorts of places. So that's going to happen. I'm hoping that because of COVID now, we can do a little workshop of 10 people. So that might mean 8 days or 10 days of workshops. So you've got to, I think as artists now, we've really got to start. It's always COVID. I've got the safety measure because you've got paints, you've got brushes. It's like, it's a nightmare. So I'm looking forward to the challenge, and this is the way things have to be now. And I think hopefully we can do this so well that it'll become a little bit of an idea for others, to say, let's not let COVID stop us from being creative. We need to keep doing this because we've got all this internet and we need to be creative and inspire our young ones and others.
You've mentioned a lot is being inspirational. Who inspired you, Kim? What made you become the person that you are, and were you mentored through your development?
No, I'm a self-taught artist. I haven't got any formal qualifications in creating. My inspiration, would be probably my brother to start. My grandfather used to take me for walks along the creeks in Gosford, north of Sydney, when I was little, and he was a great friend to me when I was little, and he used to pick all the lilies for me and I'd paint them. So I started that when I was little. My brother, I have a lot of academic friends that I've worked with over the years, arts people. I can see a couple now that have given me a couple of words of wisdom, or, you know, I think it's not always a mentor. It's just having conversations with people and spending time with people. And sometimes someone says something and it twigs in your head. So mum, definitely, family, everybody that's around me and everyone that I have met inspires me.
Oh, that's good. Thanks. That's very interesting, Kim. Thank you very much. And don't forget out there, if you have any questions for Kim or any of the other panellists, put them into the chat, and later on we'll ask those questions of those panellists. Right now, though, we're going to move away from the cooler climes, and we're going to head up to the Sunshine Coast and talk to Ant McKenna. Ant, are you online?
I am. How are you going?
Very good. You've done a lot of mentoring of aspiring and emerging artists, and you're launching a new mentoring program for the arts through BEMAC. Can you tell us about that and why pathways are so critical in the arts?
Sure. Yes, so I want to acknowledge the Kabi people on the location that I'm based on, the Sunshine Coast. And thanks a lot for having me. And it's been great listening to so many amazing people, feeling very honoured to be part of it. Yes, so BEMAC is a 30-year-old organisation. I've worked with organisations like CGUni, Arts Queensland, Sunshine Coast Council, and in all of those organisations, mentoring, whether it's informal or formal, is a massive part of what all of those organisations do and have done. I remember back in the old days of Q Music, we had things called MAPs, music action plans, where kind of elders in the industry sat down with emerging musicians or music workers and kind of listened to what they wanted to do and talk through their plan and help them fill in the gaps. The project that we're doing now with BEMAC is called Booster Pack for Creatives. It came about through COVID-19, and it really is focused on providing mentoring from 4 really amazing people, 2 in Logan and 2 in Ipswich, for artists in those regions and art workers, helping them develop new projects and new collaborations, get funding. It's pretty exciting. It's a good project to be a part of. And yeah, I guess some of the key things, I'm probably anticipating your next question, Bronwyn. The key, I should have let you ask that because you wanted to say the word ingredients, didn't you?
I did. Seeing as we're at an arts dinner, I did want to ask, what did you think was the most important ingredient to include if you were setting up a mentoring program? And if those people around Queensland or Australia who are thinking about this, what advice would you give them, or what would you say you should make sure this is part of it?
Yeah, well, and I mentioned the Q Music thing previously because there was a micro funding process attached to the program. It was called A Venue, and it was an idea that Arts Queensland had in the very early 2000s. And having that funding there, a small amount of funding for musical artists to apply for, was the key reason why they wanted to be part of that mentoring, because you had to do the mentoring to then get access to that. The booster packs for creative now is about small micro grants, and the mentoring and the partnership and collaboration development is all wrapped around that. So it's, I think, having a really great benefit to be a part of it is a good reason. And I just want to flag as well that the booster packs, we were talking to Arts Queensland and the DDG of Arts Queensland a week and a half ago and mentioned that, and we hope to think that that's part of their decision to open the new start quick turnaround grant. So we're pretty excited about that whole process as well, and looking forward to ensuring that is a kind of a wraparound partnership and collaboration and project development process as well. Having clear processes, so really clear roles for the mentor and the mentee, maybe a project that the mentee can do, great mentors, so people that have really strong industry knowledge, but also people that are very open and want to work collaboratively as well. I guess, yeah, and good tools and resources to share with the mentees as well.
Okay, so we've got a question that comes from Melissa for Ant, which is, where does a mentor get mentoring or inspiration, as Kim put it?
Mentor, thanks Melissa. Hope you're going well. Where does a mentor get mentoring or inspiration? I guess you need to be open to capacity building as a process that you believe in, I guess. Anyone can be a mentor. I built a deck around my pool, and I couldn't have done it without my neighbour coming over. Every day, every Saturday afternoon, he'd come over and go, "We're going to have to fix that. Oh, you'll have to replace that." So I did all the work, but there's no way I could have done it without him. And so for him coming to do that, he just wanted to make sure I got it right, and wanted to sit on the deck and have a beer with me and enjoy it without the deck falling down. But yeah, having a belief in capacity building and wanting to work with people, and a belief in that process is a key part of it.
So when you are a mentor, how do you know when your mentoring has been successful?
Yeah, I reckon the key one is when you become the mentor. So I'm thinking about someone like Grace Edward, who's one of our key workers at BEMAC. When she first came on, obviously she was learning a lot of our processes and that kind of thing. But every time she opens her mouth now, I just am blown away by the amazing things she says, and learn so much from her every day. And similarly, other people that I've worked with in the past. For instance, some of the early mentoring stuff we did at Q Music with people like the Veronicas and Kate Miller-Heidke, and of course, look at where they are now, and doing amazing things and speaking amazing words as well. So when the mentor becomes the mentee, I love it when that happens.
So it's coming full circle. Thanks, Ant. We'll come back to you, I'm sure, in a little while. But right now, we're going to cross over to Andrew Wright on Tambourine Mountain for our final panellist. Andrew, you there?
I am.
How are you going, Andrew? You mentored young people from around Queensland as part of Youth at the Heart at Arts Ablaze. What did the young people get out of it as mentees, and what did you get out of it as a mentor?
Okay. Well, for those of you who don't know too much about that project, basically there were a number of young artists. There was a call out from across Queensland. They were in completely different positions. So some of them were still high school students. Some of them were emerging artists. Some of them had already been gigging for a while. So they kind of had a different situation. So there was kind of quite a spread of where people were at in their careers. So when those people came in, they needed different things. And I suppose that's one of the keys to mentoring, is you're meeting people where they're at. So if you've got someone who's a DJ in Capella, and they still haven't even been paid to play their music, and they're at high school and they're trying to find a guitar teacher and someone to teach them singing and sampling, you have to meet them where they're at with that and say, okay, so your first steps are A, B, and C. For someone who is further along the track, then obviously those skills are not going to be useful to them. So in terms of what the young people got out of it, it varied, because for some people what they got out of it was their first gig. Like Harvey went back to Capella and signed his first gig and made his first money from his art form, and for him that was massive achievement. Other people secured tours while they were at the state conference by us side coaching them on networking and partnering, so they could bounce the stuff prior to a conversation and then go into the conversation, have that success, come back out. Other people wanted to know, like, how do I hack my head? Because I'm so nervous in these contexts, they're such daunting contexts to kind of navigate. So that would be, I won't name names, but, there are a couple of them that were just going, this is my worst nightmare, actually, being at a conference and navigating networking and making deals and things like that. So in terms of what the young people got out of it, they probably fall into three major areas. One would be they got a little bit of an awareness about their art, so their practice, their process, and their products, and how they could deliver those better. They got better understandings about their business, so how do they market, how do they sell, and how do they deliver on the promise. And then in terms of leadership, probably the major skills that they would have pulled out of it would have been greater personal mastery. Like, we forget sometimes that people just don't even manage their default diary during the day, because other people go to work and there's a bell or there's a 9 to 5, but people actually have to have a diary. So greater personal mastery, greater people mastery. How do I win people over to being interested in my project? And then probably the big one is greater purpose mastery, that sometimes we've got to bring people back to who are you really? Like, what are you? Who are you when you're fully expressed? Like, what's kind of your purpose in being here? So kind of, I suppose, answering some of those big questions, that was important for a lot of the people that were there as well, because they're being refreshed and brought back to the path of, when I'm at my best, when I'm at my essence, when I'm fully expressed as a human being, who am I? And I feel like that's the greatest question that mentoring can answer. So that's probably the stuff that that people got benefit from. In terms of what I got benefit from, that is a massively intrinsically rewarding process. Like that's the thing that actually, when I talk about purpose, that's the thing for me that lights me up is, if I'm going through a down spot, the best thing I can possibly do is go and help some people. So for me, I think mentoring is intrinsically valuable. If it's for you, you do it wherever you were, So yeah, I think that's what I got out of it was a sense of being part of that group, and the camaraderie of that group was amazing.
And it was a formal process, wasn't it? It was a formal mentoring program rather than an informal one.
It was, and I think I definitely agree. I think Patty might have said it earlier, that one of the things in a formal arrangement is, once you've got that formal arrangement, the idea then is to kind of drop that shit fairly quickly and get into authentic, vulnerable communication. So, yes, you can come through that formal process, but if you try and hold status in a mentorship, I feel like, you're kind of disingenuous, and in the words of Kim, people will smell that, a mile away, So I think that, yes, formal mentorship, it was a formal mentorship, there was a formal call out, people applied, there were all of those processes. But once they were in there, it was about, okay, rule one, day one, can we just please take our masks off? Because all of us have things that, if we're going to get anything from this thing, we've kind of got to bare our bellies and go, this is where I'm vulnerable, this is the place where I need help, because otherwise the whole thing's a bit of a sham and a bit of a show, unless you kind of bare your belly a bit.
So Andrew, you mentioned something there, and I'm picking up all the different things that seem to be key in this conversation, and that is the communication between the mentor and the mentee. What is it? What are the key things that we need to remember when we're communicating? If you're the mentor, how you're communicating with the mentee, and also for advice for the mentees who are now communicating possibly with their idol or someone they respect. What do you think are the key things in that communication?
I think for mentors, like when I'm mentoring mentors on mentoring, so like, because we have mentors at GoTrack, right? So sometimes I'm mentoring young people or I'm mentoring business owners or whatever, but sometimes I'm mentoring the mentor on how to mentor. And one of the key things early on is you need to know how to do the drop, right? Which is,
what is the drop?
Yeah, how to, like, imagine that you were talking about how do you do the whole combat with the expert status. You have to actively undermine that. And I think Patty related to it earlier as well. So the drop is like, oh shit, I've just dropped some tomato sauce on my shirt. I'm on the phone with you, but I've just dropped some tomato sauce on my shirt. It's kind of like just dropping your status a bit, so the person feels a little bit more light and comfortable in the situation rather than that other thing. Another thing is to disclose your own vulnerabilities. Like, just because you're a mentor does not mean that you have the right to speak on all things. It doesn't mean, you know, and actually what's amazing sometimes, like I was mentoring a girl in Africa last year, and she was asking about mindset. She was made jewelry, and she was talking about, oh my God, I don't know if I can go out and make these approaches. I'm so nervous. Do you ever get nervous? And I said, yeah, I get nervous all the bloody I wake up nervous. It's like, you know, so suddenly when you do the drop, everyone goes, oh, what a relief. No one's really got it together. And that's why mentoring is important, because none of us, like I've never met a person who has it all together. So once we do that, we're in the space of just being able to go, this is where I'm really owning it at the moment. And if I'm owning it, then I should be helping someone else through that thing with their permission. But in the areas that I'm not owning it, I have to look for mentors, you know. And that's the thing as well. Quite often we've got, you know, we might be a mentor in one area, but we might need a mentor in another area. So, yeah.
So that brings me to been watching your career. It's quite interesting because in the last year you've been to India, you've been to Singapore, and you're also a guest of Richard Branson's in South Africa. What was going on there?
So yeah, I was selected as one of 20 entrepreneurs that went in, and we stayed with Richard at his safari, which is not where you shoot animals, but where you go and have a look at them, just to clarify. But when we weren't there, we were out in other spaces in Africa mentoring people who needed that support. So one of the places that I worked at was Maharishi Institute. And those guys take people off the streets of South Africa who are in poverty, and then those guys are actually taken in, and basically there's a whole reconstruction of their brain, because 66% of the people who come into that are suffering PTSD. They've been through some terrible, terrible stuff. So they have to bring them back to who they really are. They have to, they do about 3 hours of meditation a day. They have to reconstruct these people to believe that they're worth something, and then they start to build in the business skills to help them to navigate the world and to build their business. So they're about building entrepreneurs, and they feel like what's going to happen, and I think this is so cool, that's why I was involved, is imagine the difference in our political system if you took the most disadvantaged people and you placed them in the most powerful positions in that culture. If you flipped that power dynamic, if you took the least educated, you made them the most educated with the most access, the most business skill, what would be the shift culturally in that community? And so that's the premise of it. So we kind of went over there and we were mentoring young entrepreneurs in order to create their own businesses. So yeah, so that's kind of what we were doing in Africa.
But you were also being mentored by the other people who were part of that program, and of course probably Richard Branson, I dare say.
Yeah. So we were mentored by Richard, and we were mentored by other people, and then I was called on to mentor in the circle as well. So it's been mentioned a couple of times tonight, that idea that mentoring can be circular, and where I've got, you know, really high levels of skill or talent, other people won't, and we kind of fill each other's gaps in a way. So by hanging out in a space where everyone's there to help everyone else, that's the major objective. So when you turn up, you go, how can I help? How can I be of assistance today? And by people, again, this starts with people being vulnerable. No one's ever been helped truly who hasn't kind of acknowledged that, or had an awareness that they, you know, they need to be helped. Yeah. So that's kind of the starting point. And you know, I think one of the things that you notice with Richard is that he actually is constantly this is a little trick that I noticed. I don't think it's a trick. I think it's a really productive habit that Richard had. I'd ask him a question, and remember, I'm asking Richard Branson a question, so it's kind of like everyone's hanging in, you know, kind of going, how's he going to answer? And you'd ask Richard Branson a question, and he'd answer it, and then he'd say, what do you do about that, Andrew? And I'd go, oh, well, at the moment, I kind of do this. And I just went, bingo, that's why this guy's one of the smartest entrepreneurs on the planet, because what he's doing is he's not presuming that the person who asks is dumb. He's not presuming that the person who's asking the question doesn't have their own value or their own innate knowledge. So every time someone asked him a question, he would ask them back what they did. So he wouldn't actually say, he wouldn't not give them the value, but he was constantly, imagine if that happens to you as much as it would happen to someone like him, that every time someone asks you for wisdom, you ask them what they do as well. How much wisdom would you gain from that process? So I think that's one of the ways that Richard self-mentors.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's pretty interesting.
So paying it forward, which obviously is part of that program, where do you see your role as a mentor and the opportunities for mentees for Goat Track going forward?
So I think, look, there's because I work in a couple of different contexts. So I work, sometimes I'm mentoring 6-year-olds, right, and I'm teaching them drama. And sometimes I'm mentoring teenagers, and then I've got people who are within my company who are team members, and so we've got that as mentoring, and then I'm mentoring young artistic entrepreneurs to do what they do better. In each of those situations, I suppose it's about trying to stack that. So in the business world, they call that ascension, right? So it's kind of like, if I'm mentoring the teacher artist is mentoring a junior intern, an intern is mentoring a fast-track student. A fast-track student is like an ambassador, a teenager who can drop in on primary school classes. And the primary school kids who have got certain skills are mentoring. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create a strata, which is kind of organised and informal at the same time, where basically mentoring becomes a prerequisite of the culture. So that's pretty much it. If you think about the future is when the tide comes in, all the boats rise. So what we've got to do is all be learning and all be teaching all the time. And I think great cultures are defined by this one fact. We're all there for ourselves to learn, right? Like, that's a given. We're all there to learn and to grow ourselves, but are we there to grow the person beside us? And for me, I don't want to work in any team or organisation where I feel like I have to grow myself because it's too much for me to do. I can't do that on my own. Like, that's just hubris to think that you can grow on your own. You need a team of people around you. And so good cultures, it's about saying, you know, I'm here for you, you're here for me, we're going to grow each other, and we're going to kick some ass in the process. So that's kind of where I see things moving.
That's interesting. And, you know, you've really provided young people with a great opportunity. Thanks, Andrew. We're going to cross now to some of the questions you've had for the panel. The first one I have is, and I'm sorry, I've lost the name of the person who asked the question, but was, so this is questions for anyone on the panel. How does an elderly person get a mentor? Anybody got an answer for that one?
I went back to whoever asked that question, Dari, I think, Danielle,
yes.
Danielle, and said, email me and we'll chat, because I guess it depends where you are, what opportunities you have to engage with other artists or arts workers, you know, how easy it is to contact people, whether you feel like you're part of a big open community, or whether you feel like you're totally isolated. and especially this time, that's a big issue. I guess being elderly is the same as any person with, certain kind of opportunities or lack of opportunities. We all have gaps in what we're able to achieve, but I think being open, being in contact with people, asking people about it is always a good way to start.
Thanks. Thanks, Ant. Another question we've got from Marisa is, can anyone offer tips on approaching a member, or a mentor, who may be an acquaintance or a role model when there is no formal process to which one can apply? Or is it best to try and find a process to fit into, or a funding, so I guess the question is, how do you approach someone if there isn't a particular application process to find a mentor? How would you go about finding a mentor within your own community or within your field of endeavours?
I think that what's really important with this, especially if you don't know them and you don't have any method of introduction, is the advice I would give is to think of one really important high leverage question that you could ask the person. And it's a question where the answer would be really meaningful to you. And then the key is to take action on their answer and do something about it. Do the work, and before you come back with another question, make sure that you've done the work. And it's not always about getting the result, but it's about trying and really giving it a go, because they're giving you your time. And if they don't know you and you're an unknown quantity, start with one meaningful question. That would be my way in to someone that I don't have an in with.
Kim, what did you think about that?
Yeah, for me, actually, I had a phone call from an Indigenous elder today down on the Gold Coast, and he wanted me to mentor him in some work. And I said, well, we had a big yarn. We just talked about it. And I think that's about connecting and listening. And I knew that even though we get along, that I wasn't the right person for him. So I just basically had a good yarn, found out what he was sort of looking for, sent him some links, and I gave him a few phone numbers. And that was, and I rang the people first, said, can I pass your number on? And they said, yes, I always do that. And so, yeah, they've connected. And I purposely connected him to an Indigenous male who is a younger man, but does the work that he needs. So, it's those types of things, just having that conversation. But he reached out to me, which was great. So, and I'm always not passing the buck, but just, I'm trying to, share the load and, share the information and the knowledge that's out there, because I'm not the keeper of everything. So it's important to connect people with people that can support them rather than trying to do it yourself.
And Andrew, you had some thoughts on that too, didn't you?
So was that?
You had some thoughts on that as well?
On the older mentoring situation, or the best way to
I think it was about the approaching.
Yeah. I think one of the things is know what you want, because sometimes it's kind of like people come in and they haven't actually put a little bit of thinking time into where do I need help at the moment, and so as a result, it's kind of this kind of iffy, kind of ambiguous, amniotic sac of something happening, but we're not getting anywhere. So it's like, what do you actually need? And I think if you can say, look, I don't know about marketing, or I see people on Facebook, does that work? How does that work? And the more specific you can get, then you can go and do what Wendy's asking, which is like, if you've done that mental work yourself, then you can go, who do I know that can do that thing? So if you, for instance, let's say it was Facebook and it was marketing, and you said that person seems to be everywhere on Facebook. They wouldn't be on Facebook every day of the week if it wasn't working for them. So they must know something, and then you go to that person with the, hey, I've tried Facebook, it hasn't worked. Are there a couple of key tips that you've got for me about how that could work better? And so having done a bit of groundwork first, great, and then I completely 100% agree with Wendy, go away and do something to prove that you're a good mentee, because when you show up, your mentor shows up. And if you don't, then I have a word for that, which is called ask hole. It's something that asks you for advice, and then they don't go and do anything about it. And that's kind of like the bane of the mentor's existence, is the ask hole.
That is priceless gold.
That's the key word for tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's a great takeaway. That's sort of so talking about having the question to ask, but I've always wondered too, how do you even pick the right mentor? We can all have these people that we maybe envy for what they're doing within their career, or we've been following them for years and we think what they're doing is great. But when it comes to the crutch, are they the right person to be your mentor? And how do you know that without putting in a lot of time before you realise that they're not the right mentor as well? Maybe I just...
No, research. Research, yeah. Like researching a mentor. Like my first business coach, like the first one because I've had formal and informal relationships. My first business coach, I did a lot of due diligence on that guy because it was going to be a lot of money, and so that was part of it. The next thing I thought about was sometimes we look for the person and we go, I need someone who I feel like I could have a coffee with or a wine with or something. And I think there's something to be said for that. But one of the ways that I've always chosen mentors is that's one kind of mentor that I like. But the other kind, I want someone to call my bullshit. So as a result of that, I'm looking for someone who actually is quite opposite to me sometimes. So because I'm quite wordy, as you might have noticed. I can kind of move things around with words. And what I want someone to say is stop. How many of them did you do? Did you do them by this time? So what I'm looking for in establishing a mentor is someone who's going to complement my skill set through being quite different. You don't build a team of people around you. Good teams have different roles. So it's kind of going, what's the part that I'm really weak in, and trying to find someone like that. And quite often that is going to create a bit of conflict initially, Michelle, because they're going to be quite different to you in the languages they speak. So it's kind of like maybe preparing for that as well.
Yeah, it'll put you on kind of an edge. You won't, often people that we don't feel really comfortable being with are the best person that we need right now. We need to learn, why is it that they make me feel this way? What is it about the way they're talking or their personality that is affecting me like this? And often it's because it's something that I really need to learn, and I need to be more open to that. And that's obviously an informal kind of mentorship.
Yeah.
I think Patty and Melania have something to say about this as well. Up in Cairns.
You could see us nattering away here. I think we were just referring to, I recently did a mentorship with a projection artist who was based in Adelaide, and it was for the recent project we were working on. And originally it started because, I really wanted to work with someone on the projections, and I did that. I went through that process of researching. But through that, what was really useful was seeing within their website that they had a process for it, and that they had, mentored other people, and it made it a lot easier for me to want to be able to approach them, which makes me think we should probably put something formal on our own website that this is the kind of thing that we do. But just having that kind of framework made it a lot easier to get a foot in, because it is a little bit hard just randomly asking people, to play that role with you. And then the other aspect of it was that, the artist that I worked with, Cindy Drennan, had really clear frameworks around our communication, and then through that was just really able to be such an amazing support to the project, and really connected to the to what we were trying to achieve, and came along to the shows and gave us more feedback, and it was such a really useful experience for us. And it just makes me realise how important that having a process for it is.
And that sort of brings us to that, is there a need then for us to have a website or a process set up that's actually is a list of mentors for the arts in particular? Because I know there's plenty of other businesses out there that, business chicks will work with businesses. There's the WW, which is for young women. Does the arts industry need a platform where we can actually know who those mentors are, who mentees are looking for mentors? Do you think that would work for our industry?
There's a thing called The Seed, which is John Butler runs it, and it's they do funding and all kinds of things. But the key thing they do is a retreat every year where they take people apply for it through an EOI process, and they take them away to the Blue Mountains, to Katoomba, and run a really full-on intensive about the music industry. And what happens basically is that there's a bunch of mentors sharing their information that they've learned over a million years to a whole stack of very excited people. And those relationships that are formed there have really changed our industry to be, the music industry, to be much more collaborative and partnership based. And I was lucky enough to be there talking about funding for 5 or 6 years in a row, which was an amazing experience. But something like that could work. But I really would love to see something more formalised across the state in terms of mentorships.
And I guess lots of those opportunities are often funding based and often cyclic and dependent on government. So, I guess outside of that, if we as artists and as a community had a process for creating opportunities for mentors and mentees to connect, then, like in our relationship with Cindy Drennan, we paid a fee for that, and that was okay for us. I think she, would probably also offer scholarships, but, those relationships could be discussed, outside of the boundaries of funding and government, and it could expand those opportunities much more.
Yeah, run a standards review program where they actually connect mentors with galleries that are a part of the program. So there's so many different arms of the creative industries that there's so many different places you've got to look to find that kind of information. So to be, is there value in sort of trying to funnel it all into one spot to make it a little bit easier for people as well?
Michelle, it just makes me think that wouldn't it be great to do a call out through at least southwest Queensland, but hey, why not the whole of Queensland, to see who would be willing to be a mentor. And maybe it doesn't need to have government involved in it. Maybe it's just something that we can do as a platform where those that are willing to be a mentor could be on some kind of a register that people who are looking for a mentor could go to and find and make the approach. So it's between those individuals rather than us. I'm just wondering, to all the people that are out there, how many of you would like to pay it forward and be a mentor, or how many of you would need a mentor? It'd be I think Michelle and I would both be interested to know your feedback. And if you don't want to do it through the chat tonight, we'd be interested in hearing that via email. So I think that's a really great idea, and the idea of embedding yourself in a space like an artist residency, I guess is what you were saying, where you're getting to have a whole lot of feedback from a whole lot of different people. I think it's fantastic. And I wonder also whether maybe we should be lobbying to have some kind of a mentoring program involved with our schools and universities. What does the panel think about that?
I love it.
Love it too.
Where do we sign up?
Yeah. Where do we sign up? Good point.
I know whenever I can, we sort of, invite artists from out to come and talk to our students. We had Busty, who's here tonight. She was up in Cairns doing a creative development for Hot Brown Honey, and I got her to come and do an artist talk for my students. I think after an hour with Busty, all of my students wanted to join the Church of Busty and were sort of, you know, forever inspired by that moment and that experience. So, you know, I think universities are a great place.
It's that moment in your life where somebody reaches in and has this incredible impact, and we all hear those stories of the great teachers or the great moments where, you know, things have turned around for us. And that's, I guess, what we're trying to say is that we're all, as individuals, capable of doing that and paying that forward to others and being that something that inspires people in other people's lives. So I'm just... How might we encourage people to step out of their fear and be more open and think of themselves as being a mentor to people? How might we encourage people to pay it forward? And there was silence.
I don't know how to answer that one. It's yeah. I know. How do we get people to volunteer, I guess, to be, or maybe I should change it. Do you think that there are barriers that we need to overcome to encourage people to be a mentor?
There are some barriers. I think, you know, as artists, we're all doing a lot already. You know, we're kind of already, you know, doing a lot of work just to keep our own careers going. And so I think that time and money can be a real barrier for a lot of artists with being able to have the capacity to work with other people. And, you know, I certainly know that it was really, you know, great for me to be able to afford to be able to pay someone to mentor me, because it just made that relationship really clear as well, and the time that I was getting really clear, and it meant that I didn't encroach on their time and energy at all. It just made it feel really balanced and beneficial for both of us. It was a real acknowledgement of, you know, the 40 years of work that Cindy Drennan has actually done in the industry and in her own learning. So I think when we're talking about, I noticed there was a comment that said that no, money needs to change hands, and I'd probably argue with that. I'm much more of the view of keeping the money going around the pockets of all the artists, you know, and keep it paying it forward in that way.
I think that's really interesting too, and if we were going to have those formal mentoring programs where people are being paid to be the mentor and people value what the information they're getting because they're putting their hands in their pocket in some way, or they're part of a funding program, how might we set something like that up? How could that be formalised? And I guess, Ant, this might be a question for you because you've just implemented a program like that. Well, how would you see, how can we do this across Queensland or across Australia?
Well, ours took money, so we're using some of the RASN funds, the Regional Arts Services Network funds, and we did that specifically in response to COVID. So employing 4 people for a period of hours each week, for a period of time with specific focus of getting in contact with every artist and arts worker that they know in the region and spreading the word that they're available and offering their time to support those artists in their development. But yeah, that's a more formal and of course linked with the opportunity to get funding out of that as well. So I think there does have to be some kind of formalised approach to it, but I guess you could look at it in a more as a kind of a collective or a like a union type thing. You know, there's a whole stack of industry bodies in the past, cooperatives, etc., that actually provide that kind of peer support among different business people. So there's lots of good examples there, and even kind of good examples of business models to do that, where people actually pay to be part of it. You might have to get to a certain level before you're accepted as part of it as well. There's all of those kinds of opportunities. Depends how into collective socialist behaviour you want to get, I suppose. Let's go there.
Yep. Bring on the revolution. Before we finish up, I'd just like to ask each of the panellists their favourite mentoring moment or experience. We maybe start with Patty.
God damn it. Look, I do think I have favourites all the time. I'm exposed to students all the time, and just, any of those tiny little moments where their little faces light up and they've got something, or it's, we've both tripped over on this pavement. I think, like Andrew was saying before, that idea of the dropping, I very much believe in that idea of levelling the playing field and being exposed and making mistakes and allowing my students to kind of come with me on that journey. So I guess I can't choose one. That's torture.
Melania, what about you?
Look, I guess I'll just probably speak to where I started the conversation, and that's going back to the mentorship we had with Candy, and particularly because, we had no idea what we were creating at the time, and we were really worried about not being able to fit this work into any box, and who would want to see weird hacked iron instruments and people jumping around singing about housework. We were really kind of lacking a lot of confidence in whether we could really pull it off, and working with Candy, it just really pushed into our brains just to forget the box. There is no genre. You don't have a genre. There is no such thing as a housework iron genre. Let it go. And just that bit of inspiration back then at that really important part of our career has really changed the rest of our work. And all these years later, we've found a box to pop ourselves in of gig theatre, but only because Busty told us about it. So I think it's just remembering just how much impact you can have on another person's career and life, and I think we should all be encouraging each other to do that.
That's great. What about you, Wendy?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, just when you see that penny drop and an artist actually values themselves and suddenly, they're selling their products for what they actually should be priced at, and they realise that people are willing to pay what they're worth, and that's sort of like artist utopia. I should get paid for my time and my beautiful, unique work, and those moments too where you see somebody realise that they're really good at doing something and then choosing, but I'm just going to do this for fun, or no, I'm going to do this as a career, and they're really beautiful moments to witness. I think those aha moments where people sort of choose a path and they have a choice, which is really nice.
Oh, that's great. I'm just aware that we're almost running out of time, so we might just end the discussion there, and just encourage you to revisit, if you want to look at this again, to go to the Live at the Centre website or the Arts Front website to check out the YouTube clip of this so that you can catch it, and we'll be uploading some transcripts of these sessions in the next few days. And we'd also invite you to join us next month on the 30th of June to talk about placemaking and fabrication. And now I'm going to cross back to Michelle. Good night from here in Beaudesert. Michelle, can you take over the next bit, and then we'll introduce the Ironing Maidens.
Lovely, thanks, Bron. So we'd like to thank our guest panel tonight. So Aunt McKenna, Andrew Wright, Kim Walmsley, Melania Jack, Patty Preece and Wendy Green. I'd like to thank Auntie Janice that spoke for us this evening for her welcome statement, and I'd like to thank Kim Williams for her lovely artwork and Mununjali Nari for their welcome dance. Richard Usby for our guest chef, and the Overflow Estate on Warralong Dam, my co-presenter Bron Davies and the team at Scenic Rim Regional Council Cultural Services. All the arts captioners and the folk from Arts Front and Brown Velvet Cinema, the tech crew at Beaudesert. And special thanks to the tech team here at the Empire Theatre. And I'm going to take us out with welcome back to live from Cairns, the Ironing Maidens. Stay safe, everybody, and as in the wise words of Kim Walmsley, get your creative on.
Great, so it's over to us. This is the interactive part of the evening, like the physically interactive. So this is the bit where you all get to get up, come on, out of those seats, shake it up, move your camera back so we can see your awesome dance moves. Okay, we're going to have 3 minutes of non-stop housework. Okay, so get your feather duster or, you know, perhaps a broom or a toilet brush or whatever you've got. Just imagine you've got your feather duster.
Grab the candle, Bron. Grab the candle.
That's it. The candle will do. Wonderful. Okay. If you don't have a feather duster and you're feeling a bit jealous right now, just imagine you have one and feel the fluff with your mind, okay? All right, Patty, hit it. Are we loud enough? Yeah? All right, okay. Stretch it out. That's it. A little bit of side to side. Oh, yeah. It feels good.
Any man will admit that's a lot of work when it's called to his attention in the right way.
Yep. Get your arms moving. Shake it down into your hips. Yeah, beautiful. And body roll. Yes.
Any man.
You're not my breadwinner, I'm not a homemaker. I'll break your plates, I'll take your place. I am a table header. You're not my breadwinner, I'm not a homemaker. I'll break your plates, I'll take your place. I am a table header. You can party like a housewife, baby, come on. Tonight, we can all be housewives. You can party like a housewife, baby, come on. 'Cause we know how housewives like to party. You can party like a housewife, baby, come on. Come on, let's all do it together, let me see you. You can party like a housewife, baby, come on. And the best thing about the housework party is it never ends. Done and done, done, done. Did that washing, did that bit, wash those sheets, bit of dusting. The dishes are done. They were done yesterday. The dishes are done. They were done yesterday. The dishes are done. They were done yesterday. Dishes are done. You just gotta put them away, boy. You! Okay. Now we're gonna do freestyle housework. Freestyle. We've got some vacuuming, vacuuming, vacuuming. Oh, sexy vacuuming. You have to look sexy when you're vacuuming. Windows. 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 Get those windows clean. Eliminate germ and cobwebs. 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 Are you ready, everyone? 5, 6, 7, and you can party like a housewife, baby. Come on. Woo! Feather duster. You can party like a housewife, baby. Come on. Oh, you look beautiful. You can party like a housewife, baby. Come on. And I love your moves, looking good. You can party like a housewife, baby, come on. Last little bit of cobwebs. Cobwebs. Gotta get this house cleaned up. Beautiful. Well, I think that's a clean house. Now, before we go, it wouldn't be a gig if we didn't have a little bit of a merchandise plug. We've got some lovely tea towels here for you.
So during COVID, we've been stockpiling merch. We have almost used it as toilet paper, but not this one. This is clean.
And you can have it if you go to www.ironingmaidens.com. We also have some lovely aprons. And we have a special new tea towel project that's starting in June, which we can't tell you about, but if you pop to the website, you can keep in touch with us and get your iron on. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Was that an applause? Where's that canned laughter?